don't follow the trend cycle. I think that really sucks. Like that is like totally one of the worst parts about fashion. He invented the technology to make clothes faster, but that's actually not, like, we're still using like old sewing technology that they had like decades ago. Yeah. That is like dramatically changed is like the labor involved. Like I have this like idealized vision where like if they really implemented sewing and clothes making in like elementary school and like kids were taught how to sew, like we would really radically transform how our like people's relationship with clothing was, because they would know about what it takes to make something and like all that energy, and they would
Welcome to the I Feel You vodcast. I am your host, Eddie Wise, and on this episode I had the pleasure of speaking to Izzy. Izzy is the founder of a fashion brand, Isaboko, 2021 Redress Design Awards finalist, 2022 CFDA scholar, and a Project Runway alum. They are an Asian American, non-binary designer and maker who is deeply interested in the complex and contrasting identities in design. On this episode, we speak on how gender-free design is becoming the norm, the 3 core design principles of Isaboko, and how greenwashing is plaguing the fashion industry. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for watching. It means a lot to us that you're here right now. If you enjoy the content that you're seeing, please like the video and subscribe if you haven't already. And without further ado, enjoy the episode. Hi.
Hello.
How are you?
Good.
Yeah.
You're so awesome. Thank you for having me here. I feel very lucky and honored.
Of course, it's our pleasure. We love your work, and I know that we met you at a Safe and Sounds event, which shout out to Safe and Sounds, and I know Christine, who's sitting in the other room, she had seen your work, and she was like she was saying earlier, she was super into it, and
it's so nice.
You know, we were looking around and we were like, oh, this would actually be a great person to bring on to the podcast because of the work that you do. So we appreciate you being here, and we're excited to like talk about all this stuff, fashion. We're going to talk about, you know, we have questions about, you know, sustainability and, you know, all these other things. But first off, just to start us off, how do you really feel today in general? How are you, like, you know, in your life at this moment? How are you feeling?
Oh my God, that's such a great question. I feel like a little bit terrified because I'm in that like post-grad free fall, and I'm trying to keep pretending like, oh, it's not happening. Like, oh, I've done so much good stuff to set myself up for success, but I don't think that any of that actually matters, and it always just feels crazy after you graduate. I just graduated in May from Parsons.
That's wild.
And
congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. I was a graduation speaker.
Really?
Yeah, I'll send you the video if you want to see it. It was awesome. But yeah, I feel terrified.
Yeah.
But also good vibes.
I'm glad. It must be, I didn't go to college. I went for like a semester or two, but I was like, yeah.
That's cool. That's cool.
How does it feel, I guess? I mean, I'm sure it must feel, like you said, it must feel crazy, but are you terrified in like an excited way? Like you're excited for the future, or are you kind of like, I guess, nervous about where you're going to end up?
I'm really not nervous about where I'm gonna end up. I feel like it's all gonna be fine. It's all written, and I feel that the future is really good. Nice. But I want to be able to trust myself more, and I want to be able to like be okay. Yeah. In the moment more. I want to practice. I'm gonna practice it right now.
Yeah. Good. I'm glad. Yeah. To be honest, that's something I've been working on for a long time. I feel like I'm very I think a lot about the past, and I oftentimes find myself being super in my head. And once I become more present and I can kind of like be here, I feel like life is just a little bit better when it comes to that. And we can like have better conversations, which is what we're trying to do today. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah. I keep having this thing where I like want to work harder, and like my body physically won't let me do it. And then I'm like sad that I can't work as hard as I want. And then I'm like, I need to just either be okay working less or work more to feel better, but I can't do it, so I have to be okay with working less.
Yeah, that's like I feel like that's something that a lot of people are running into now. Speaking of your work, do you do full-time fashion? Is that like or are you kind of like you do other work and then is it?
Yeah, basically, so I won this really big and awesome grant from the CFDA, the Council of Fashion Designers of America, really last August. Yeah. And basically that is like paying for my life for the next like year, if I can make it last that long. That's so really I am doing full-time fashion design, and I'm also doing like some freelance gigs, freelance like sewing. Yeah. And have like I'm like designing a thing. I don't know if it's gonna be a shirt or whatever it is for the New York Islanders.
New York Islanders.
Yeah, coming up. The hockey team.
Yeah.
Coming up sometime. Like I don't know if it's gonna be in July or August, but that is like also like, so I'm just doing these random like freelance design and sewing gigs, and like also trying to like be. So I guess I am like full-time
you are
fashion
doing
designing.
full-time, sure. Yeah, which is really cool to hear.
In like an abstract way.
Yeah, especially like post-college. I feel like, especially in the creative industries that we're in, it's a bit more difficult, especially coming out of college. It's like finding a job is probably pretty tough. Especially I feel like with fashion it's a form of expression for a lot of people, and it's one of the most interesting ways to express yourself very outwardly, and like you know, people can tell you with like just with your fashion sense what kind of person you are in a lot of ways, especially when you're attuned to it, but also with new trends always, and new kind of like ways of going with fashion. How do you stay on top of that? Like what makes good fashion at the end of the day? And I guess what's your take on trends in general and how quickly things go in and out of style?
First of all, I really like your style. I want to say that.
Oh, thank you.
And like, it's really interesting when you think about like what it means, like when I'm perceiving you or if you're perceiving me, because like I can perceive you however I want. I could be like, oh, you're really cool. You're really laid back. You're like trying to be fashionable, but not trying too hard. But like you care about how you look, but you like want to look laid back. I don't know. Is that what you're going for?
I mean, that's typically what I go for.
But what if I just totally misinterpreted you like entirely based off of like you had like a whole different idea about who you were, and I just interpreted based off of like how I understand the world. So it's all about like who you I don't know. I think it really doesn't matter how other people perceive you. It's all just like kind of like an internal thing. Yeah. And that's how clothes really manifest for me anyways, as like a way to feel better about myself and to like be like, who do I want to be? That's super fascinating. Yeah. Like today I want to be like wearing this shirt and like being cool and like shirt. Thank you. I made this shirt.
No way.
Yeah, this is one of my designs. It's like from a upcycled it's from like a quilt face. Yeah. Which is like it's a quilt that was not finished. Yeah. We're really changing the question. Is that okay?
No, that's okay. Okay. I'm curious. I mean, we're here about fashion. I'm curious about that's great. You made it.
Like so cool. A lot of people make stuff from quilts, but then there's this huge kind of controversy about it because it's like, oh, someone like probably a woman spent like hundreds of hours making that quilt, and then you just decided it should be a jacket, and it's like that person really didn't have the consent to say like, oh, it's made into this. But then it's also like, okay, well, if you found that quilt for $5 at a yard sale, like it was basically worth nothing, and then you're transforming into something that's very valuable. So I try to like balance that by using only like unfinished or damaged quilts and trying to like give it a lot of honor and like give the original maker honor and make them happy with what it would be. Yeah. And also I do like only zero waste patterning. So like none of like intricate textile patchworking is wasted. Yeah. Anyways, wait, what were we talking about? Oh yeah, about trends.
Yes, yeah.
I think that don't follow the trend cycle. I think that really sucks. Like that is like totally one of the worst parts about fashion. I think that's very like diluting to who you are and who you want to be. It's just like following a system that's trying to tell you who you are.
So you would say good fashion is how it makes you feel when you put it on, essentially. Yeah. And it's more about that than it is about what people are perceiving when they see your outfit and stuff.
Yeah, I think it's way more about you than other people. That's and I think it's also about pieces that you really care a lot about. Like I think that if you look in your closet and if you don't remember what's in it, like you shouldn't have it. Like you should really care about the pieces you own. Yeah. And like something that's really interesting is our relationship with clothing has changed so much, even in the past like 50 years. Like the average household used to spend 33% of their like free income on clothes, and now it's like less than 5%. Really? Yeah, but we have way more clothes. So they used to buy way less clothes but higher quality. Yeah. And now we buy way more that are just really low quality.
That's so interesting. And this does go into kind of my next question, and talking about fast fashion and how, you know, you said the past 50 years, a lot of that change has been the mass production of clothing and how we kind of came up with a lot of new technology to make clothing much, much, much faster and at higher volumes to sell at cheaper prices. Yeah. And I guess one thing that we didn't take into account, or maybe they did and they just ignored it, but one thing we didn't take into account is the massive environmental cost of all of that, and how now we're kind of trapped in a cycle of needing to produce. I don't even know if for clothing we need to produce that much clothing, but like there's a cycle where companies are making that much clothing, and there is a return that they are getting for that environmental damage. And yeah, I guess when talking about the clothes that people have in their closet, how do you get more people to care about where they're buying things from and how they're buying it? Because I find that that's a difficult task to get people to care.
Yeah, oh my gosh. That's like what my brand is all about, is like, how do you get people to care about clothes? And I think it's about like rebuilding the relationship to like how it's made, because almost everyone who has not like actually sewn something or made something is completely disconnected from like how clothes are made. Like you even just said, I'm like, that's totally fine that you just said that. You just said like we invented the technology to make clothes faster, but that's actually not, like, we're still using like old sewing technology that they had like decades ago. We have not improved that much. We've made little improvements, but not anything dramatic. The thing that is like dramatically changed is like the labor involved. We just have so many more people working at way higher hours.
Maximize the labor.
Yeah,
basically.
like people are working way too hard. Clothing production has, I think, the highest or second highest amount of human labor violations in like the whole world for industries. Yeah, it's insane. Like people are so consistently like exploited, and like it could be clothes that you don't even think are fast fashion, like brands like even like Nike and Adidas have been caught like in factories where human labor is being exploited, and that's because there's like a system in fashion production where there's like, it's kind of disseminated, like the like Nike will be like, okay, we're gonna order 1,000 shirts from this company, and then that company will outsource it to like a bunch of other factories where it's kind of like the labor, like you can't keep track of it as much because it's like all these different levels of people.
But then when you look at it, what it looks like is just coming from this one place, but realistically all of those things are coming from other places and just getting to one. And then that's so it's like we're just like so disconnected from the process, and then that doesn't even go into like the agriculture of it, of like farming cotton. Like so many cotton farmers die every year from all the pesticides involved, and like there's a whole deal with that. Like I don't even want to really get into it because I don't want to bring everyone down. Like it is like a bleak world in the fashion industry. I guess the conversation, I mean, I'm glad we're having this conversation because like you said earlier, there is such a massive disconnect between the consumer and the process of making clothes. And I mean, it's like that in a lot of ways when it comes to mass production. These companies kind of they take the place of like they basically do a lot of the work for you. They give you the $5 t-shirts at, you know, massive production. Like you can buy as many as you want and they would still never run out at some point. So I guess why do you think there is such a disconnect? Do you think it was like, I mean, I'm assuming that process is beneficial for companies, but why do you think we still have that disconnect when there are some people talking about those environmental impacts?
I don't know. Why do we have those disconnects? I feel like I think part of it, I don't know, this is maybe my like idealistic, because I'm a maker and I'm always making and sewing every day, and it's such a huge part of my life. Like that's why I am so connected to it. So maybe if like everyone just like learned how to like, I have this like idealized vision where like if they really implemented sewing and clothes making in like elementary school and like kids were taught how to sew, like we would really radically transform how our like people's relationship with clothing was, because they would know about what it takes to make something and like all that energy, and they would understand like, oh, this shirt for $20 makes no sense. Like so many people must have been exploited along the way for this to be so affordable.
And it hurts fashion designers too, because then when you sell your clothes for the actual value that it's at because of how much work you put into it, it's like, why would I buy, you know, this product from this fashion designer I like when it's so expensive, when I can just go get something that's like a knockoff of that at this H&M, Zara, you know, Urban Outfitters for half the cost, you know what I'm saying? And it makes sense. I think that the not to make people feel bad about themselves, but like, I would say this about myself too, is that there's an ignorance there that keeps you away from like feeling bad about it, because like, you know, as long as you're buying from a hole in the wall or like a thrift store or like something, like you can ignore all of the potential impacts of doing that, right?
Definitely.
And it makes a lot of sense. And just for people who are watching, and I'm sure you know some of these statistics already, but a few more statistics on the fashion industry. They account for 10% of the global carbon monoxide emissions and 20% of wastewater in the world, in the entire world. The fashion industry accounts for that.
And these are things that don't need to be made. Like we could stop clothing production today and have enough clothes to last us 100 years.
You walk in, I worked at an H&M when I first came to New York.
Oh, wow.
It is the worst place to work. people only go to the sell section. They make a mess of it. Everything else is like, there are so many clothes. And also on top of that, there were like 10 employees with a 3-floor building in a flagship H&M store. And like you said, there are way more clothes than I feel like we would ever need. And there are like 4 H&Ms in the city alone, right? And they're they're also getting the same amount of product. Just that concept alone should give you a good idea of like how much we're overproducing, I feel like.
And H&M is really scary because H&M has like a ton of power in the fashion industry, and they like pay a ton of young designers, and they like do all these like sustainable initiatives to try to like improve like recycling, because that's what they believe is going to like solve fast fashion, is like if we can get to where we can just recycle all of our fabrics. I don't really believe in that vision. I don't know if I want to talk too much shit about them, because I just met this guy who was like, oh, you're like, H&M's going to give you a huge deal one day, and like you better not talk too much shit about them. But yeah, like H&M is really scary. So,
and I mean, we don't have to talk specifically about companies, but greenwashing is a massive thing that I just learned about this recently, because we were going to have you on the show, and you know, we wanted to know more about what you were doing. Greenwashing is kind of crazy. So essentially it's like companies putting labels on things that are eco-friendly, or they're saying that it's better for the environment, or they're giving it those tags. But then when they do research on these companies, the thing that they are doing is having no environmental impact at all. So it's not better for the environment. They might be like, you know, maybe reducing a little bit of how they're, you know, hurting the environment, but they're not reducing it by a margin that is actually better for the environment. So for the people watching at home, because it's a lot of research to do, how can you be more informed, and how can you make better decisions when you're choosing where to purchase clothing?
Yeah, like, I think that just like talking to people, I mean, most people kind of do know about like fast fashion is bad, but it's just about like, how do you internalize that and like change your actions to fit that? Because it is really nice to buy clothes and like get that new thing and feel like, oh, this is awesome. Like I finally get to have this look that I've been wanting. But I think it's really about, like, I don't even know if it's necessarily about buying new clothes. It's about like curating your style and like understanding what your style means to you and who you are, and like what you want to look like outside of the trend cycle. Like anyone that's following the trend cycle, I think, is not pursuing like authentic style. Authentic style comes from like outside of the trend cycle. You're never gonna find who you are from H&M or Zara or any of those fast fashion companies. You're gonna find it like in your own closet, and look at what you already have, and like look at the pieces you love and start building from those. And
that's where, like, if I had to, if you're gonna go shopping today and you wanted something that was, you know, you could still walk into a store and buy something, right? But it's a place that is actually making change in terms of like how they're doing clothing and stuff. Do you have places like that you purchase at?
I mostly shop at thrift stores. I think like Beacon's Closet and L Train and Buffalo Exchange are great places to shop. Like you can buy fast fashion brands there. Like even if you want to buy a fast fashion piece, I think it's better to buy it there, because at least it's not participating in that system. But I think that you can also get a lot of great vintage pieces and like even designer pieces. I think it's also cool to like buy designer on eBay. You can get designer pieces on eBay for the same price that you could get a fast fashion piece.
Wow. Yeah, I had no idea.
You definitely can.
So there's always somebody selling a designer piece, right? Just like be patient. Just wait a little bit. Wait 2 months. Like put out like Marnie Blazer and you'll find one in like 2 months. That's great. It's great to know, because that's not a place people would ever look for fashion if you're not like in the fashion industry, or you don't know about places to look. But yeah, we like kind of exclusively shop at thrift stores now, because I'm glad to know that I think it's still a good thing to do.
Yeah, as long as you like care about the pieces you buy. If you can like see yourself wearing a piece of clothing in like 2 or 3 years, I think go for it. If you can't see yourself wearing it next year, then don't go for it.
Because then it's kind of like a bit wasteful, especially if you're just gonna like toss it somewhere.
Yeah, right? For sure.
Or like, do you suggest like selling to thrift stores as well?
If you can sell your pieces, as long as, I think like if your pieces retain value, that is so important, because then you are like keeping your clothes out of the landfill. Sell it, like trade it with your friends, give it to your friends, just keep it out of the trash. Like upcycle it. Just keep it out of the landfill. I upcycle everything.
Just literally keep it out of there. That's the only place you have to keep. That's great. One thing that I found really interesting is there's already a quarter of consumers that a major part of their purchasing process, like when they're thinking about where to buy clothing, it says a quarter of consumers prioritize sustainability. I don't know if that's a number that's seeing any of, like, if we're seeing the effects of that, or maybe people are kind of being kind of blindsided by people who are saying they're sustainable but maybe aren't doing it in the best ways. What are some realistic ways to, like, because we talked about going to thrift stores and that's awesome. What are some realistic ways to really look at a company and kind of decide if you want to make a purchase from them? Like, is there a place to go where you can kind of easily get that information, or like get the truth about something? I don't know if that exists, but like, if you know of a place at all.
There is a place. I can't remember what it's called right now, but I don't even necessarily know if you need to be using like an online resource. I think it's more just about like, I think the things that you should look for when you want to buy new clothing is like, oh my god, all of these things I'm gonna say like no brands are doing right now, but I'm trying to do in my brand. So like, it's really radical.
We're about to talk about that.
Maybe some brands definitely are doing this, but like if the material is new, even if it's recycled polyester, it's probably not. It's really bad. I think that cool brands should be using new material. I think there's so much dead stock and waste material. Like, I don't even use really dead stock materials in my brand. I use only like waste materials, like kind of like discarded like post consumer materials. Waste material is like what they're pretty much tossing out.
Yes,
exactly. But I think also like size adjustability, like if you can keep a piece for long, we all are going to change sizes a lot in our lifetime, and if you can keep a piece for many years because it's size adjustable, that's going to be way more sustainable. I think like pieces that transform are more sustainable. Like even button down shirts you can wear open, you can tie it, like pieces that have like a lot of different function and use, or if it's in the design. I think pieces that center gender-free design, because if you don't want it anymore, you can at least give it to anyone instead of like, oh, it's really feminine, I can only give it to like my girly friends. But like if a piece I could give you the shirt right now, like and you would be like, cool. I mean, if you like it. But.
No, I love the shirt. I would definitely wear the fuck out of it. Yeah, that's great.
But yeah, it's just all like keep it up out of the landfill.
Yeah. So your brand, I want to pronounce this correctly. Is it Isaboko?
Yeah, Isaboko, yeah.
Your brand has 3 design principles, right? There is only use waste textiles, what we just talked about, create with zero waste patterning, and center gender-free design. You talked about 2 of those. What the zero waste patterning? Can you explain a little bit about what that is?
Yeah. So like most fabrics. Okay, this is not true for everything because some of them do come in circles, but most fabrics are like rectangles like this. So it's like a long bolt of fabric. But say you get it like in a rectangle, and then the patterns are kind of like, we have these curves like our neckline and our like and like our sleeve, like our arm, and so we have all these like curves around our bodies that like conventional pattern making is used to just like having these like curves because this is how we expect clothes to fit. But zero waste patterning kind of like subverts that and uses 100% of the material, so it like changes the shape of the pattern. So like instead of curves, it'll be a straight line, or maybe there'll be like a dart there, or maybe it'll be a curve but it'll be hidden inside of the seams. There's like literally a million ways to do it.
So cool.
And like no one is doing, or there are people that are doing amazing work, but like no really huge designers are doing it because it's really hard. It's a new skill that a lot of people don't want to learn because it's so difficult and like out of the norm, and it's also like takes a lot more time to think about it, but like it's so valuable because it's so meaningful. And it does obviously like save a lot of fabric in the process. Like they estimate like 18 to 25% of fabric is lost at the cutting room floor, so much of it. Insane. So it's saving that. But then if you have a zero waste garment and it still goes to landfill, it's 100% waste, you know? So it's, but like the thing about zero waste garments is they're probably not gonna go to landfill because they're so interestingly designed that like they have all these like unique like design features that someone would probably value it enough to either like give it away or like try to sell it before it would end up in landfill. So it at least prolongs its life and like gets you to think about like, oh, how are clothes made? If this is zero waste, how many of my clothes have a lot of waste?
I mean, I'm gonna probably look at my closet a lot different after this conversation, I'm not gonna lie, which feels great. But when it comes to these principles, these design principles, I love all 3 of them. What inspired you to go for something so difficult? Because having 3 solid principles is a great way to kind of set yourself apart, but you have to work probably so much harder to make these things happen. Why did you go this route?
Oh my God, I feel like that's such a big compliment. I don't know why, like difficult, it feels like, yes, I'm working so hard. I think that So I was a Redress Design Awards finalist, which is like the biggest sustainable design competition it's based in Hong Kong in 2021, and I was the youngest one there, and like I don't know how I even got in, but and it was so hard. Like they kicked my ass, and like I said that I knew everything about zero waste patterning and I didn't know shit, and like I had to like figure everything out in 2 months. But then after that I can like do it really well. So it's so worth it. But it like you had to like create a system of like how are you gonna make the most sustainable brand possible. So I'm thinking like, well, if I can only use textiles that are headed towards landfill, I can like divert them back into new clothes, and then also not only that, but I cannot throw away any of the pieces, go and put them back in landfill. I can keep them all on this garment, and I can create something really interesting that will fit a lot of people. I'm also non-binary, so I really wanted to just like center gender-free design, and I think that is the future of fashion, and like gender design, like obviously anyone can wear anything, but I think it just makes a really, really cool garment when it is gender free. Like that's something I'm always thinking, like, okay, you can design skirts and you can design dresses and you can design really masculine, like boxy things, but like when I design something, I'm like, would my sister wear that? Would my brother wear that? Like if they would both wear it, then I'm like, okay, cool, this is like an Isaboko piece. That's your brand. And they're so cool, right? Because sometimes I make stuff and it's too feminine, and I'm like, oh man, this is just for myself, this isn't part of the brand anymore.
It is such a cool way to think about it as well. And like I said before, I mean, it sets you apart in a lot of ways. And I think that as a society, we are becoming a little more, like, especially our generation, we are doing a little more gender fluidity.
Yeah, for
sure. It's even like I grew up in a Latino family, and that is like you'd never approach that. Gender fluidity is not something you would approach typically. But even in my family, and kind of the way that my cousins who are a little more traditional, I guess, even in those circles, they're finding ways to be a little more gender fluid, and it's simple ways. So it's like, getting earrings is not normal for men. Painting your nails, I paint my nails sometimes, but in clothing, and I, funny enough, with Christine, we share clothing a lot.
That's awesome.
So a lot of the things that I'm wearing now, she bought this.
Okay, that's cool.
Well, actually, nothing else. This is all me. Usually, it's all her, so that's good. I'm making strides. But yeah, it's. I think we're all centering it a little bit more, and I think it's so cool to hear that there's actually like a great reason for that as well.
Yeah, totally.
And it's not just. It's not just to make you feel good.
Yeah.
It can also lead to way more sustainability in the future.
For sure.
And I would love to see like a big brand that is focusing on gender fluidity in a sustainable way, because then it just makes so much sense. Like, instead of making clothes that are for women and making clothes that are for men, you just make clothes that are for everyone, and you don't have to produce at such a crazy volume.
Exactly.
And you can, and like you said before, being able to just give away your clothing, you don't just have to look to your gender to do that. You can look to everyone.
Definitely.
And it's a beautiful thing. Why do you think, how do you, like, what are some of the factors that you feel like are contributing to gender-free kind of clothing? Why do you think that's slowly becoming a little bit more of the norm in terms of, our generation especially? It's a tough question, but like, I guess there's a lot of factors. But
I think I feel like whatever it is, it's definitely a good thing. I think probably something to do with like gender equality, like more people becoming awoken to that and feeling like that's an important thing, or even just like people feeling the opportunity to pursue whatever identity that they feel like. Like, I think that you can like basically any clothing can be gender free. Like, anyone can wear whatever they want. True. But it's about like what are like for my brand, it's about what are the normal conventions of what have been feminine style and what are the normal conventions of what have been masculine style, and then like blending those into a unique thing. And I think it's just about like people being able to have the identities that they want. Be getting closer to that. Every day we step a little bit closer to that. And then like stuff like pushes us back, but then like we just keep trying to step closer.
Keep trying to get closer to that world.
Yeah, because we're like, gender is like a societal construct. Like, we were not supposed to like have such stark differences in like how we lived. I mean who knows what we were supposed to.
I mean, I feel like back then, the structure was back. It's all back then, right? The structure was there to, I guess, provide normalcy, and like people like to
help people like process the world.
Yeah, exactly. People like to recognize what's around them and not be like taken by surprise too much, and they like to for like, some reason
have roles that they fit into.
Yeah, they like to know what gender they're speaking to in a weird way. It's interesting, and I'll speak about this openly because I think it's good to learn and to grow. I am, I guess I'm not new to the world of you know, that gender fluid kind of, you know, that you can kind of identify in whichever way feels best for you. I'm not new to it, but it's still kind of like there are still some things that feel different, you know.
Yeah.
Some moments where I feel like, oh, that's not something I feel like I've heard before, or I feel like I'm comfortable with in a way. And it's exciting because I feel like that's great, because more people are willing to express themselves, and as more people become willing to express themselves, more people will get accustomed to that. And then, you know, ideally we are moving in a direction, and it feels like we are, but ideally we continue to move in the direction where gender fluidity is a normal thing, and how you identify something that is respected, and especially in the vocabulary of others, which I think is a really hard thing.
It is hard. Like we were not raised with they them pronouns. Like we're the first, I feel like, adult generation that is like, oh, I use they them pronouns. Whoa, what the heck? Like I mess up all the time, but it's just like, just keep trying, just like keep taking steps forward in the right direction.
For sure. And I appreciate your brand for kind of like giving space to that as well, and doing it in a way that matters, right? I think that a big part of you tied it so well with the gender fluidity, but also the reasons why and the sustainability that's behind it, and why they work so well together. And I feel like it can give people a reason to be like, you know what, I love that, you know, and I want to be a part of that, or I want to get a piece that's like that, and I want people to kind of like, you know, see me in a piece like that, and kind of respect the form of expression that I have. I think it's so cool. So
thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
I mean, it sounds.
It was so hard. It's a great.
Yeah, I'm sure. Listen, you got a great elevator pitch. I'm in. I'm bought in. Listen, when you're publicly traded, I'm buying stocks.
Oh my gosh. That's what everyone wants me to IPO, but I don't know if that is the future. What if it's just a small brand forever and I just pay my rent? It's fine.
There are not to speak on this too much, but there's a beauty in that. There is such a beauty in just, I think about this for some reason. I always think about like what it used to be to kind of open a little store in like this random place in your town or wherever it is, and to make sure that store is working to the best of its ability and servicing the community, and not expecting more than that. Just being like, this is serving the people that I wanted to serve, and people are appreciating it. I'm able to deliver, and I'm able to live. I'm living, right? I'm alive, and I can pay rent, and I can do whatever I want, basically. And that's like a lost art. I feel like everybody wants everything. Everybody wants like, God, I could talk about this all day, but that's enough. That's enough.
Yeah. Those are the most meaningful places, though, don't you think? When you stumble across them, it's like, this is where the heart is. Yeah.
Especially when there's like real people behind it, and it's not just. Oh, I'm watching. Have you seen Bear?
The Bear.
Yeah, the Bear.
I'm watching it so much. I talk about it every single day. I'm like I watch one episode every day because I want to give myself more time. I can't even believe that you're like saying that right now, because that has been like funny. My show right now.
What episode?
I'm on season 2, episode 8.
Oh my gosh, we're on season 2 episode. We just finished episode 7.
Oh my gosh. So I'm also like just finished. Wow, how are we how is that possible that we are actually on the exact same episode right now? Because, didn't that one with Richie make you cry? Like that made me cry so hard. Oh my God, I was so moved. It was that
the essence of what they were talking about in that episode, and how not too many spoilers, but there's a monologue that he hears, and it's like, like, I do this because I get to serve people, and servicing people and seeing how happy they are after they are served is the reason why I do this, and there's nothing else. And because of that restaurant is like where it's at. You know what I'm saying? That's the focus, right?
Yeah.
And people have these big ideas, and they're like, I want to serve everyone. And it's like, no, you need to find who needs what you're giving, and then hyper focus on how to serve them best, right? Yeah. And I think that you have beautiful niches where, the zero waste and the way you're using textiles. It's a beautiful niche that's serving a really specific need in I think it's a big project, right? It can impact a lot, and ideally you inspire more brands to do what you're doing. But like, you know, there's going to be a very specific community of people that love what you're doing. I'm sure there already are a lot of people that love what you're doing, but it's I feel like it's going to be so fulfilling. I'm really excited for you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
wow, I feel like you really like are touching my heart right now. I think that like you really understand what I'm trying to do, and I don't even know if I really understand what I'm trying to do, so I'm really glad you
that's great. And like, these moments, right, these moments where you can kind of like hear it from somebody else what you're trying to do, and you know, like I'm very layman, like I don't know much about the fashion industry at all, and what I know right now is, you know, from what I've learned and what you're, you know, imparting onto us right now. And I think that's an exciting moment, and I'm sure that, you know, I'm sure that it's much more complicated than just simply what we're talking about here, and it's probably very difficult, but I think that's beautiful. And you know, we need people that are watching, and, you know, people like us to kind of push you and the brand forward so that we can make that happen. You know, thank you. It's gotta happen.
And it's like, I keep thinking that people are gonna really try to pressure me to like sell out and like do like something different than that, and like I don't even want to like do stuff where I'm using new textiles anymore. Like, even if it's like, okay, this is a great opportunity, but like I'm not even like interested in that. I'm just like, this has nothing to do with what I'm trying to do. I have so much work to be doing. Like, why am I doing this?
I'm glad you have that laser focus in mind, and there's gonna be some temptations, I'm sure there are. You have a lot of exciting projects coming up as well, and one of the things that we wanted to highlight or talk about real quick is that there's a Camp Isaboko. I think it's the fashion film, right? And it's directed by Maya Peters. So can you talk a little bit about that film, and then you there's a significance there when it comes to summer camps in Michigan, I think it is, right? And then how that influenced your fashion journey and what that film is going to be about.
Oh my gosh. This is like one of the coolest things I've ever like had the opportunity to be a part of. So I'm really glad to be talking about it. But it's just like, Maya is just like this super stellar, out of pocket, talented, like hardest worker I've ever seen in my life. Director. She's like Irish and Chinese and like multicultural cool. And like just has like such an amazing vision. And basically like I met her through a friend, Sia, like, and she was just like, I want to make a film for your brand. And I was like, okay, well, here's what it's about. Here's what my collection's about right now. And then she just came up with this whole concept. It was like perfect. It captured everything that I wanted to capture. And she got a huge crew together, and no one was paid anything. We all just like, I mean, me and Maya funded it. We like bought the food and transportation, which was like, it was so expensive to fund this film, but it's like, it was so worth it. I have the like most recent cut, and it's like out of pocket good. Like exciting. I think it's gonna win some fashion film competitions. Go. Like it is like I can't even believe how good it is. Like it doesn't like when I look at the work, I'm like, that is not my pieces right now. And it's so cool because it's like a fashion film, but it's like really playful and fun, and like kind of like dirty in a way that like fashion films are usually more like it's like about the clothes, but it's like about the people too. And I think fashion films are not really about the people.
Would a fashion film be basically like it's a film about the fashion that you're going for?
Exactly.
Like it's like
or it's about like the brand, or it's about like the emotion. It's about like movement and emotion. It's not really about like words or like scenes or anything.
It's kind of seeing the clothing in motion and seeing what you built in kind of like, you know, creative spaces, I'm assuming. And that's really cool. Yeah. That's exciting.
Yeah. It was awesome. It was like it felt so great to be working with people that just really wanted to do an amazing project, like a creative thing together. Like, because I feel like I'm so often working with people that like want something from me, or like I have to like serve them or in some way, or like, you know, like so much like client work, which is fine and I'm happy to do that, but it's like it's so cool to just be on like a collaborative creative project.
Collaboration is like probably the single most important thing that any creative needs. I feel like there are things you can do alone, of course, but things matter so much more when you collaborate with someone. And I'm sure it feels that way with that film, because you had someone who has like a very unique vision, it seems like. And to have someone else, specifically, you know, having it be Maya, come into your fashion and kind of influence it in her way, in her special way, I think that it just brings a new light. You know, it kind of shows you a different way. example today, I actually, it's funny because Joe, who was here earlier, he, the lighting setup, I'm sure people will notice if you've seen other episodes, it's a little bit different this time. But because usually it's, it looks different. But what I often try to do is that, how do you bring someone into your world and bring them into something that you're doing and have them, put their spin on it or give their opinion on it, I feel like people are afraid of that kind of stuff sometimes. Mm-hmm. And
because it's their precious baby.
Exactly. Yeah. How did it feel to allow someone to kind of direct a project that was about your work? How did that feel?
It felt like such a relief. I was I've been working way too hard. Like, please, someone else and like come in and like do something. I can't do this anymore. It felt like, oh, I'm just here about the clothes. Like, I've never just been here for the clothes. I'm usually here directing and producing and like doing
everything. Yeah.
So it felt so good. Like, I don't know if I can go back to like directing my own shoots and like. Oh, it felt amazing.
Yeah, that's so cool. Good. I'm glad you found somebody to help you out with that. That's really exciting. Well, you've made a lot of great strides in your brand, it seems, at this point. And, with everything that you're doing, I think it's beautiful. You were also highlighted as like a standout Parsons graduate, right? You were kind of like, this is like that was your thing.
That was cool. That was nice.
And you've been through so many kind of moments that I feel like are probably pretty validating. Another great stride that you are about to achieve, I think this is still active. Isaboko is going to have an online store August 1st.
Yeah.
August 1st, yeah? Yeah.
August 1st, August 31st. Those are basically the same in the same range.
Yeah, well, somewhere in there, which is, it's super exciting. And I guess how have things evolved, and, how have things changed since you started this brand? And then, how does it feel to finally being close to launching like an online store?
I think that it's still the same thing. It's still the same brand. And I think it's going to start out really slow. It's going to start out being mostly made to order, and like a few pieces we're going to have like stock of, like maybe one or two. Yeah. And right now I think it's really just about figuring out like what selling to people looks like, and like how that relationship is going to go between the brand, because I don't think it needs to operate like a normal fashion brand. Like, I almost like, and I'm really interested in how like streetwear does drops, and I'm really interested in like how fine artists like sell their work as like very specific like custom pieces of art. And I'm just like interested in kind of creating a new system of interacting with people that want to buy the work, because I know that people want to, because so many people tell me they do, and I'm just like, I haven't been able to like release the Kraken like that. But like, I'm ready to do it. I'm trying to be ready to do it. And I know I need to do it to keep like myself alive and to keep growing this thing I'm trying to build. So I think it's changed. I'm trying to not let it change. I'm trying to keep it what it is. It's just becoming like a thing that is gonna go out there in the world in a more tangible way. And I'm scared.
No, that's totally fair, because I think change is definitely a bit scary. And I think it's funny because I'm hearing you kind of like, you go back and forth a little bit. You're kind of like, oh, am I ready? I think I'm ready. I have a feeling that like a lot of it is that you don't want those core principles to change. You're inviting, you're welcome to some kind of change, and you want things to be, accessible, but there's something that you kind of have to give up a few things when you do start to become accessible. And it's scary because it's going to be tempting to just be like, okay, let's just make as many as we can. Like, let's just go full force. But then how do you stay connected to those principles that you had initially? I think you can definitely do it. It's just going to be, like you said, it's going to be hard. It's going to be tough.
Okay. You know what I just realized that I'm actually afraid of? I want some W's, and I think that this is a W right now. I'm feeling so good and happy about being here. And I just know that like the first 6 months of having my online store, I'm gonna take so many L's. Like, I'm gonna just lose over and over again, and I'm gonna make so many mistakes. But I know I have to do it.
Yeah, you have to.
And I just have to like eat shit over and over again, and just like face the consequences and like learn and grow. And I'm just like, oh, should it start on the 1st? Like, maybe I want to just be safe for 1 month longer. But
I mean, either way, you're going to have people waiting and excited. And
hopefully.
I think that, I'm going to tell all my friends and everybody watching, you know, the pages are in the description, and, you know where to go to follow and keep up with them. And I don't know, it sounds exciting, and I'm really excited for you. And we weren't kidding when we say, like, to the audience, we weren't kidding when we tell you that we love their art and their work. So please check it out. Please follow if you can. And just we're ready for it. So
appreciate
yeah.
it. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Of course.
Yeah.
To end off the show, if you don't mind, one, if you can let us know how we can support you. I know, of course, socials, but if there's anything else you got going on or anything that you want to shout out, please do. And then if you want to end us off with some words of wisdom, if you have any for the audience.
Yeah. You can definitely follow me. Honestly, I feel like the best way to support me is, like, support yourself and, like, make your own life better, because I feel like we're all just connected, and, like, if I work to make myself better, I'll somehow make you better, like, because that energy will just, like, flow through the universe and, like, get to you somehow.
Yes.
I don't know. Maybe it will. I hope so. But I think it's just about, like, let's just send good vibes and, like, work to make ourselves better and stop trying to change others around us.
Yeah.
Like, I'm always trying to change everyone else when I should just try to change myself.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. And if you're interested in, like, buying a sweater made out of socks, or, like, a suit made from a Japanese kimono, like, hit up the site. Those are the first pieces. Yeah.
That sounds sick. Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, they are really cool. They're cool.
I gotta check that out. Yeah. Oh, that's so cool.
They're kind of, like, too cool. Like, I think that a lot of people, like, that aren't cool enough don't get it. But, like, if you're as cool as you can be, then you'll get it. You have to. You understand, I'm sure. That's so make yourself cooler so that you're able to access the brand.
And it's so easy to make yourself cooler.
Yeah. Just be yourself.
And follow them on Instagram. That's how you make yourself cooler.
Thank you.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. Bye.